the chemical that enables it to adapt to each other, that brings all the chemicals together, bind them together, put them together. And actually this chemical is the chemical that prevents your paint from being dusty. So when you have that chemical according to specification, people will not complain that your paint is following their clothes or following their hands. That's the job of that chemical. And after that, we talked about additives. Talked about the one that takes out the foam in the paint, and we talked about the one that allows the paint to flow. Actually, painters fall in love with a paint that has flow. So when you put that chemical that allows the paint to flow, painters are very happy when they find it, and they likely would want to patronize you again. All right, then after that we had a full video of how to make paint, which is actually a combination of all the steps that we are given. Combination of all the steps that we're given put together as one formed that full video. I do hope you watch the full video, understand it too. Whatever you don't understand, you can put up questions in the comment section, and I'll see how to get back to you. All right. Please subscribe to my channel, share my videos, comment on my videos, and like the videos. Thank you very much. Today, we want to look at a very crucial aspect in paint production. It's the aspect that has to do with identification of paint. Basically, as a producer, when you finish producing your paint, it is corked. Once the paint is corked, you're not going to have the time to start opening the paint for customers to start identifying the colors inside the paint. And that is why paint has codes and names. So these paints can only be identified with the names and the colors. So when you put a particular name on the paint and the code is right there on that your container, a buyer sees it and knows exactly what is inside the container, or knows exactly the content of that container. It knows if this container contains white. The buyer knows if this container contains black. The buyer knows if this container contains other colors. So the buyer really doesn't have to open up the container, or doesn't have to coerce you to open the container, because the buyer has seen the name on the container. The buyer has also seen the code on the container. Now, this is a very important aspect of paint production. And so today we're actually looking at how to identify paint with codes. See that? How to identify paint with codes. The reason codes are used to identify paint is because paint comes in various colors. And so you may have white. And when you say white, in paint, the paint producer or the seller It's going to find out from you what kind of white, because there's actually more than one white in paint. Same thing when you say pink. Normally, we all know what pink is, but in paint, there are various kinds of pink. And that is why coding becomes important in paint. The need to know the codes, the need to understand the codes as a producer or even as a buyer. Because there are some paints that are light and there are also some paints that are deep. So we have light colors and we have deep colors. So we could have several shades of brown, just like we have several shades of pink. And we could have several shades of red. We could also have several shades of gray. So when you go to a paint shop and you say, I want to buy gray, the paint seller will be confused, because you need to let the paint seller know the exact gray that you are looking for, because there are several shades of gray. So if you just say, give me gray, the seller will be confused, because there are several types of gray. Same thing when you say, give me red. There are the light reds, there are the deep reds. And also, when you go to a seller and say, give me brown color, the seller surely is going to ask you, what type of brown are you looking for? So in order not to muddle things up, in order to ensure that things are easy between the buyer and the seller, the need to identify paint with codes had to come up. So when a seller gets to a buyer and say, I need pink XY, all right, the seller will be able to know the exact pink that this buyer is looking for. Or when the buyer tells the seller, oh, I need light pink, okay, the seller will also be able to know almost easily what the buyer is actually looking for. So if you want to be a paint producer, you must acquaint yourself with paint codes. You must acquaint yourself with names of paint. You must acquaint yourself with the different kinds of paint. Like I said in previous videos, colors in paint are basically red, yellow, blue. And then come the neutrals, white and black. 5 colors. With these 5 colors, we are able to get every other color in paint with these 5 colors. And so we have the paste or the liquid type of colors, and we have the powder type of colors. The powder types are just 2 that we actually work with, yellow and red. With these 2 colors, you are able to get every other color that you need. Whether you call it green, you call it brown, whatever color you want to bring out, you are able to get all these colors. Sometimes, because you don't want to form a color green, you can decide to buy a green liquid. And actually in paint, we also buy a green liquid. But you can actually get green by mixture of 2 colors from the red, yellow, and blue. But if you don't want to waste much time mixing colors, the greens are also available. You can just easily buy them. actually in the liquid form. When it comes to powder form, just be okay with the red and the yellow. All right. So there is a need for you to understand codes in paint. Because when the buyer comes, this is exactly what they will be asking for. And so we're going to start by taking them code by code, taking the pens code by code. And the first pens that we want to look at here, or the first color that we had actually like to look at here, is the white paint. Now, if you go to a paint store to say you want to buy white paint, you've not actually been able to drive your points down, because the paint seller will still be waiting for you to hear what kind of white paint that you want to buy. So we have brilliant white paint, which is one. Brilliant white paint is the highest form of white in paint production. It is the purest form of white in paint production. So if you're looking for the purest form of white, it is called brilliant white. Brilliant white. The name brilliant must be there for you to know that this is the purest form of white. It is called brilliant white. So when you have brilliant white as a paint you want to buy, the seller knows exactly what you are talking about. That's the name, brilliant white. Brilliant white is used basically for ceilings, for deckings, the under deckings, used for POP. It can also be used for walls, for those that want to use it on their walls. But it is the purest form of white. It is pure white. No black added, no red added, no other color added. It is just white as it is. As white as this board that is in front of you right now. As white as it. That is what brilliant white is. Now, brilliant white has a code. If you don't want to say that I want to buy brilliant white, you could tell the paint seller the code. So if you know the code, you may not bother about calling it brilliant white. So you either identify with that name, brilliant white, or you identify with a code. So the code for brilliant white is 1902. 1902. That's the code for brilliant white. 1902. So when you see the 1902 color, you see the 1902 on the paint, you actually know that this is brilliant white. Even if the word brilliant white is not written on the container, but the numbers 1902 are written, you are sure that this is brilliant white. You are sure that this is brilliant white. So that's the first one that we are looking at. So you either identify with the name or you identify with the code. So it is one, which is number one, brilliant white. Brilliant white. (1902). 1902. That's brilliant white. Brilliant white. It is the purest form of white. The purest form. So if you are looking for the purest form of white, you look for brilliant white. If you are looking for the purest form of white, you look for 1902. It is the purest form of white. It is white without any form of stain. It is white without any other form of mixture, of mist, like black, red, and so on. That's brilliant white. And so the other kind of white that we also have is called off-white. 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 That's the other kind of white that we have. Off-white. Off-white. Here comes off-white. Off-white. So as you can see, this is also white, but it is off-white. The name white is written there, but it is off-white. And so that's why I said, when you go to the pen store and you say, I want to buy white, the pen seller will be confused, because it needs to know the exact white that you are looking for. So when you tell the pen seller, I want brilliant white, the pen seller is sure of exactly what you are looking for. When you tell the pen seller, I need 1902, the pen seller, without much ado, understands exactly what you are looking for, without much ado. And so when you tell the pen seller, I need off-white, he knows exactly what you are looking for. So off-white is actually, as the name implies, off-white. A little variation from brilliant white. Just a little variation. Some years ago, off-white looked very much like cream. We'll get there, like yellow. But now, as the year goes by, off-white has very little difference from white. You only see it and know that this is not brilliant white, this is not the purest form of white. Yes, you're not wrong. It is called off-white. Off-white is milky in color. If you have ever taken milk in your life, if you have ever bought milk to drink, I mean liquid milks, that's how off-white looks. It is milky in color. That's the color of off-white. It is milky in color. You see it as though it is white, but you know it is not the purest form of white. There is a little added color inside of it that made it different from brilliant or the purest form of white, which is 1902. So when you get to the pen seller and you say you need off-white, he knows already exactly what you are looking for and will be able to get it straight to you, because without blabbing, he knows what you are talking about. Now, if you cannot remember the name, you should be able to remember the code too. Off-white is actually a popular color in the market, just like the brilliant white. The brilliant white is the most used color, because normally when people paint, they would always want to paint their ceilings. So it's always high in demand. And so most paint shops, if they're making demands for paint, they could just say, give me, out of 100%, they may be going for about 30-40% of just brilliant white, and the other 60% other colors. Off-white is also a very popular color in the market, as a lot of people use these in their sitting rooms, and they also use them on pillars and window hoods. It's fine. It's balanced. It's a cool color. It's not sharp. It doesn't shout. It's a cool color. Now, if you don't remember the name of white, the code for it is 4046 4046. That's the code for off-white. 4046. That's the code for off-white. So if you don't remember the name off-white, you should be able to remember the numbers 4046. That's the code 4046. So when you get to the paint store and you say, I need 4046, the seller already knows what you are looking for. Or when you get to the paint store, you say, I need off-white, the seller already knows what you are looking for. But if what you need actually that you want to use for your building is 4046, and you go to the seller to say, oh, I really want to buy paint, but what I need is actually 1902. Oh my God, you've just made a big blunder, because the seller is going to give you 1902. And when you get home, you're going to discover that it is not the off-white that you are looking for. But you made the mistake of telling the seller that it is 1902. And so the seller is going to give you 1902 because the seller might not open up the paint while you are there. The seller will only identify the paint with the code or the name. With the code or the name. So when you tell the seller that you need 1902, the seller gives you brilliant white paint, 1902. And when you get back home, what you discover is a brilliant white paint instead of off-white. So you have to be careful when giving out names to the seller. And you have to be sure of exactly the paint color that you're looking for before approaching the seller. Because not every seller may be able to advise you. I mean, everyone is there to sell. So some persons might not just have the time to start explaining things to you. They might not have the time. Why some may have the time to ask you questions about the substrate, about the space, and all others, to be able to advise on the color that you should buy, and also advise on the quantity of paint that you should buy. Others may not have that patience. So you have to be sure of what you are looking for before going to the paint shop. So if you need 1902 from the paint shop, and you finally get there to tell them that you need 4046, sure, they give you 4046. But 4046 is not 1902. Both of them are white, but there is a little variation between them. One is the purest form of white, while the other is the milky form of white. So if you actually need 1902 for your building, and you go there to tell the pen seller that you need 4046. You've made a blunder, and you may have to bear that blunder. Because when you get home, you're going to discover that the color inside that pen is not 1902. It's not the purest form of white, but actually the milky form of white, which is called off-white. And then you are not going to blame the seller, because you are the one that actually told the seller to give you 4046. Because the only way the seller can identify the pen is either through the name or through code. I mean, come to think of it, some sellers, they have hundreds of drums and gallons of paint in their outlets. And the only way they can identify which is through the code and the names. And so when you make a demand, they are not going to get to the drum and start opening it because you have made a demand. No. They're just going to look at the code or look at the name, and then that's it. You have what you want. So in cases like this, caution is needed to ensure that you are demanding the right product that you are going to derive value from. Because if you need 1902 and you are giving 4046, you are likely not going to have value from 4046 because it was not what you actually wanted. But you are not going to put the blame on the seller because you told the seller it is 4046. And the seller walked with what you told him or her. So understanding pens by their names and code is very important. It's very useful in order for you to have the right thing that you are looking for. The third one that we will be looking at here is another kind of color that most people usually call yellow, but it's not called yellow in the paint industry. It is actually called cream. But when a layman sees it, the layman is going to say, that is yellow. Yes, that's the layman's language. But for the paint producer, it is called cream. Now, just the way we have various kind of white, it is the same way we have different kind of cream. We have light cream and we have deep cream. The color light cream is a cool color. It doesn't shout, it's not sharp. It is a very popular color that most people use for their buildings, especially for the interior. Some people can use it to paint the entire interior of their houses. The rooms, the corridors, the lobbies, you just name it, except they just decide to mix them up with other paints. It's a cool color, popular color. These are colors that no matter what it takes, or no matter what it is, as a paint producer, you must sell them. They are sellable colors. So the third one is cream. That's the third one. It's called cream. Cream. Well, seeing this name, you are going to feel that is the cream that you use for your body. No, not at all. This is cream in paint. cream in paint making. This is cream in paint making. All right. Now there are two types of cream actually, but we'll treat the first one first, which is the light cream, the lighter type of cream. We'll treat that first. It is the light cream, the lighter type of cream. Like I said, it's a very popular color that is often being demanded by house owners and building contractors. It is a sellable color. In fact, the three colors that are there are very sellable, highly sellable. The brilliant white, the off-white, and this cream that we're talking about now. Highly sellable. You can't have these colors as a producer and be complaining of sales, because you will surely sell them. They are popular colors. So this is the name cream. It has a code too. So like we've always been saying, if you get to the paint shop and you say you want to buy cream, the paint seller is going to wait for you to finish up what you're saying, because you need to let him know the type of cream that you want to buy. Now, this cream, there are two. We have the lighter cream, which is this. With this code, you only identify these creams with codes. So the light cream, you either call it light cream, which is 30, 40, 30, 40. Light cream, this is 30, 40. Later we'll move to the deep cream. This one is the lighter form of cream. And the cream is just like, when you see it with your eyes, you feel it is yellow. Yes,